Hi folks, welcome to week 5. This week we'll be looking at the issue of difference, looking at particular populations of clients, their needs, how to approach work with them in a way that incorporates the difference they bring to the relationship, as well as acknowledges the impact of oppression. We'll look at how we communicate our perception of the diversity that our clients bring to the helping relationship, and how that difference is incorporated as a strength in goal planning and intervention. You have your introductory video. This week you'll demonstrate an understanding of ethnically sensitive generalist social work practice with clients from culturally and ethnically diverse populations, and demonstrate an understanding of assessment, intervention, and evaluation with community client systems. In terms of your readings this week, 2 good chapters from LUM, Culturally Competent Practice, a Framework for Understanding Diverse Groups and Justice Issues. This textbook, these 2 chapters give a good framework for understanding what is cultural competence, understanding cultural competence as a process, as well as providing a framework for cultural competence, which incorporates NASW Code of Ethics and various other important pieces of information, including some good definitions of culture and cultural competence. The second set of chapters from the Poolin text, both excellent, actually written by Widener faculty. The first one, Generalist Practice with Economically Disadvantaged Clients and Communities, was written by Stephen Kaufman. Dr. Stephen Kaufman provides some good context for understanding individual, group, organizational, and macro level context issues related to clients and communities. And the second chapter, written by Dr. Brent Satterley in our social work department and Dr. Don Dyson in our human sexuality program, specifically looks at practice with gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. So both excellent articles, well written, providing really rich information for you. So I hope that those are useful for you. In terms of your discussion, you'll use this link to the Working with Difference exercise and post your results. And I think this will be a really rich and potentially eye-opening exercise for you, and provide some interesting discussion with your classmates. You'll follow with one classmate who does not yet have responses. You'll discuss similarities and differences between your exercise results and those of your peers. And you'll brainstorm ways that you and your peers may be able to work with the clients that may be more difficult for you to work with effectively. How do your responses to the Working with Difference exercise square with social work values and ethics? An initial post due Thursday, and a follow-up due between Friday and Sunday. And as you can see, someone has already gotten started, which is great. Secondly, you'll have your initial biopsychosocial assessment video feedback discussion. You'll share the media space link to your video that you recorded this past week in week 4, and with a brief written description of the client's presenting problems and specific skills you demonstrated. And you'll follow up with one classmate with 2 parts, providing constructive feedback, what did they do well, and what can they strengthen, And based on the client's presenting problem, suggest an additional skill, one that was not demonstrated by your peer that could be used in engagement and assessment. Discuss your rationale for suggesting the skill. And again, same instructions for the post and response. And then you'll have your initial biopsychosocial assessment paper. So for this assignment, it is a pretty significant percentage of your final grade. It will be 5 to 8 pages, not including the title and reference page. Here, you'll briefly describe the context of your interaction. So, agency context. What agency are you working in? What's your role in the agency? Maybe give a sense of the community that it's in. Is it in an urban neighborhood? Is it rural? Is it in a suburban setting? You'll give a description of the client and presenting problem, including age, sex, racial and ethnic background. Remember to give the precipitating event, history of presenting problems, history of client systems, including family background, vocational and educational background, environmental influences, and a history of the present problem. Looking at strengths, challenges, and motivations. You'll want to identify those. You're identifying the specific details of your client in terms of identifying data. Please do not include any information that would allow peers to identify a specific person. In part 3, you'll transition from your description of the presenting problem to identifying target problems for intervention planning. You'll want to incorporate phases and dynamics of the treatment process, give your hypothesis of why the problems are occurring, and identify relevant goals to resolve the target problems you've identified. For example, how do you explain what's happening for the client? You can draw on theories, models, or perspectives, including ones that you've learned in other classes. So you can include Erickson's psychosocial development theory, social learning theory, systems theories. In terms of perspectives, you can use the strengths perspective. You can use the person and environment perspective. So make sure to differentiate between theories and perspectives. In part 4, you'll describe the process and skills of engagement assessment that set the stage for intervention planning. Analyze your interview segment by discussing specific engagement and assessment skills that you applied, noting the client's response to each of the interviewing skills. Assess which skills and use of self were effective in facilitating the assessment and engagement phase. In retrospect, would you change your strategy? So in terms of use of self, we're talking about experiences that you drew upon either in your thinking or perhaps something that you disclosed to the client, experiences of your own that you brought to bear in working with the client. Those experiences don't necessarily have to be memories or stories about yourself. They could be your understanding of yourself, perhaps. You experience anxiety, perhaps you experience a particular symptom. How did you bring your knowledge of that in terms of the work with your client? You'll address possible trauma-related experiences and how they've impacted the client. How would you address these issues in treatment? You'll address diversity and ethical issues encountered in your work with the client. If you didn't encounter any specific issues in this regard, you'll address potential issues that could come up in this interaction. Ethical issues, perhaps. And the issues of difference are important, as well as issues of sameness. So if there were if you were working with a client who was the same as you in the sense of similar gender, similar race, similar background, how might that pose a challenge in the work with the client? You'll comment on your comfort and discomfort levels throughout the interview. Did specific skills feel difficult or easy to apply? With this particular client situation, what did you learn about your own interviewing style that you'd like to develop or modify? And then lastly, you'll provide an annotated bibliography of one article. You'll select and critique one new relevant research article that informs practice intervention with the client using APA style. So here I would say probably within the last 10 years, an article that was written within the past 10 years based on the particular client and their presenting problem, looking at a particular intervention. And for those of you who need to brush up on your understanding of what an annotated bibliography is, you can go to the APA manual, or there's websites. I think the Purdue OWL website provides an example of what an annotated bibliography looks like. So please go there. It's different from a regular, it's not just a list of references, so you'll want to brush up on what that is if you don't remember. And then you can take a look at the rubric. As you can see, the point values, the presenting problems, the description of the client, history of the client's systems, the assessment, the process of engagement and assessment, annotated bibliography, and the clarity of writing all have a significant number of points. The context, the strengths and challenges, target goals and problems, trauma experience and diversity challenges, as well as the ethical issue, are all significant as well. They don't come with as much point value, but are equally important. Other than that, please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns, and I look forward to reviewing your work. So far, the work has been excellent, so I am excited to see what you produce here. Okay, folks, have a great week.